All right, we're gonna get started, guys. Hope you all had a good fall break. Just some housekeeping to go over before we get started. There is an assignment due tonight. It's the wireframes based on the last sketches you made. It's due tonight. Turn it in PDF format if you can. Any questions on that? Because there was some confusion about the assignment and starter files that got messed around. The Figma starter files and the Sketch starter files should both be in Canvas, but if you have questions, let me know. Cool. We have a jam session coming up next week. It'll be Tuesday at the Innovatrium. The Innovatrium is the place right across from Espresso Royale on South U on the second floor. It'll be on November 1st from 6 to 8 p.m. It's on a Tuesday instead of a Wednesday this time. We'll send out invites. We should all come. It'll be super fun. And we'll talk a little bit more about it Monday, and we'll send out more details tonight or tomorrow. And then finally, I want to talk a little bit more about the website. So I guess a lot of people don't know this, but we have a website where we put all of our content. So it'll be the lecture slides, the lecture recordings. So we actually record all the lectures. So if you ever miss something or need to go back, all the content is there. So all the content is going to be like under their respective slides. And then if you click on something, it'll give you the assignment details too, if there is one. So all of that should be at umishdesign.com if you want to get any of those details. Cool. That is all I had. Oh, sorry. Word of the day is drum set. So heads up.
Hi, everyone. You guys have a good fall break? Me too. Feel relaxed. All right, so just a quick reminder of what we've been doing. We're in the build stuff phase of this class. This is not the theory part anymore. This is where we actually get out our paper, our computers, and make some designs. Everything we do when we're making designs is going to be targeted at the context we've decided design is going to try to live in. And it's going to be for the user that we decided the design is for in the first place, based off of all the learnings we did earlier. Remember, all the design we want to do should be useful, should be usable, and delightful, if it can be. This is one of the pictures we showed from the design process lecture, where you map out how the world works according to the person who's in this world. And we did a little bit of user research. Sketch some designs. This is what we did last time. Decide on what design you're doing. We're going to just assume that you can pick one of those designs to work with today. And then prototype is next. We're going to do prototyping today. Actually, stay tuned. There might be a change to the syllabus. We might do testing next, because it's sort of the logical following after prototype, but we'll see. All right, so what's a prototype? Any ideas? Yeah?
Like a first iteration of a product.
Yeah, a first iteration of a product. What's the difference between a prototype and the sketches we did last time? The wireframes. More fleshed out. Sort of farther along in the design process, sure. Yeah?
Like
if it's an app, it should work. I think that's probably the best way to say it. The definition here is a typical preliminary model of something. It's not really just like a sketch or an idea on paper. It's really a first take. Like, it actually has to be a thing. These are sort of sketches, and one is low fidelity from our last class, the kind of wireframing we did. And this one's high fidelity, but they don't really do anything. They're not really an app. They're just some sketches on paper. So let's use an analogy of a car. This is sort of like our wireframe, a loose sketch on a piece of paper. And this is sort of like the high fidelity rendering of a car in 3D. But is this a prototype? Why not? Yeah, we can't drive it. You can't even touch it. It's not a car. It's just a picture of a car. This is actually what prototyping cars looks like. Has anybody ever seen this happen in real life? I haven't. Yeah? They're making it out of clay. They're actually sculpting the car, and sometimes this is done by hand. There are actually machines that do this really well. But if you were trying to decide, if you were like a boss at GM or something, whether or not we would make this car a real car, you'd probably want to have the clay version to sort of walk around and look at and touch. Maybe even get in and feel like how close that roof is really to your head. You know, you can sort of see in a rendering how that might look, but there's a big difference between this and this when you're trying to evaluate if your design is right. And notice there's a lot more detail here. This is actually higher fidelity. It's got color, it's got the lights, you got your headlamps, you got your rims, you got your shaded windshield or a spoiler in the back. This is just, there's not even any wheels on this. There's a wheel missing. You can't even get inside. But there's something about having a tangible artifact when you're designing something that really helps you figure out whether or not you're on the right track. Man, my emojis are broken. I'm going to show you guys a real-world example of this. So this is a prototype. This is actually a high-fidelity prototype. But this is a prototype that we really built a couple months ago at my company. And it's a tool called InVision. You're going to be using InVision today. In fact, if you want to follow along with the live demo I do in a few minutes, you can go to invisionapp.com and sign up for your free account. And you can upgrade that to a student account later, which will give you more prototypes. But you get one for free. And we'll send it out later tonight as well. There are a bunch of screens here, just kind of like how you see in Sketch, right? And there's some color on these screens. We're going to do classes on color later. But there's some really cool things about this screen. First of all, if I click it, and I click outside here, you guys see that blue thing lighting up over sign up? That's a hotspot that we drew on here. And I can actually click sign up, and it'll take me to the next screen. I can quickly type in my acres, click get started, and then see how I have this prompt to figure out where my fields are. If I click anywhere on the screen, I can actually get rid of this or pretend that I typed that prompt in and search. And it'll take me to a place in Michigan where I can zoom in, and then it'll prompt me to actually draw a shape or click a shape. It kind of looks like I'm reusing this app, but really it's just a complicated slideshow. But I got to tell you, in my experience, when we were working with this is one of the many different prototypes and many different versions we did of this feature. It really helped you figure out how to narrow down your app from all these different possibilities. So for example, older prototypes of this had a sidebar on the left, and as you added fields, they added to the sidebar. And it looked pretty good when we were mocking it up. But when we tried clicking around, we realized that maps are complicated, and it's hard to see exactly where you're clicking, so we wanted to give as much room to the map as possible. So we got rid of the sidebar. We actually got rid of a feature. And we wouldn't have been able to do that if we hadn't actually been able to click around with it. As you can see, this is a pretty big prototype. There are lots of different versions of these screens. This is what happens if you actually have to draw a field. So if you click a field that already has its shape in our system, you can just save it right off the bat. But if you choose to add fields manually, you can click draw, and you can even actually go in here and click. It looks like I'm doing something, but really I'm just hitting hotspots. This is the next one I have to hit. Yeah.
So you described InVision as like a complicated slideshow. What does that mean? Like, how does it work?
Well, I will show you in detail in the demo, but basically each of these pages is a screen from Sketch. And if I actually arrow key through here, I can just go through, see how 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 36. But the real key is to click on this box here, and I can draw what's called a hotspot. And this allows me to link this spot when it's clicked to any other page, including these pages. You can see these are all the pages that I'm maybe going to click to. I can even click, make this an option to go back to the previous page. There are even some really complicated things like screen as overlay that allow you to put a modal up in front, a pop-up window in front of what you're looking at. We're not going to get into that today, but we are going to walk through a basic version of how to build one of these with our example from last week. Does anybody have any questions before we dive into the demo?
I would say just like one other thing is that these blue squares you guys are seeing, we're creating these hotspots, what we call hit areas. So what it's doing is you're mapping a way to click through different images in InVision. So like once you create that blue box, you're going to say, okay, I want this, wherever the user clicks here, it's going to bring up a new page in InVision for the user. And you have to just designate and select which one it would be. So yeah, it's just kind of just like, it's at the basic core of InVision, it's just image mapping. images that are mapped to other images.
We're going to show you how to do this right now, too. So if you have any questions, just watch how it works. One other cool feature of InVision, actually, is you can go back and see old versions of these pages. This is what we ended up with. But you can see there are 3 different iterations, and actually most of these screens have a lot more. The older iterations are black and white, without actual copy, without actual text, just like the ones that you're going to be building today. So keep in mind that a prototype doesn't mean it has to be very polished. Okay. You guys remember this, right? This is the example we talked about last week, a music app. And we tried coming up with a bunch of different ways to show how you could add a song to a playlist. So there's a list of songs. This is the currently playing song. On the right is a search view. And the little plus marks are things you can hit to add a song to a playlist. We're going to take this example and build an interactive prototype around it, not adding to a playlist, but allowing you to share a song with one of your friends. Here's what it looks like. We're using Figma. So I've already prepared a couple screens, really basic screens, that kind of look like the screens you guys have been making in wireframes. Just a list of songs here. And you can see these are just text and lines with some shapes. This one's really long because I wanted to see what it would look like if we have a lot of songs. I'll show you why in a second. There's a screen here that shows a currently playing song, some album art. And there's a share button up here. And if you click either of these share buttons, we're going to take you to a little pop-up share screen. This is modeled after a screenshot I took on my real phone of the native actual iPhone UI that you use to share with, links with other people. And once you click share on any of these methods, like for messaging, we're going to take you to the iMessage. You can do this with sketches. Obviously, here we're doing them with wireframes. I even use like screenshots of black and white high contrast images to show rough ideas of how something might work. And we're just going to hook this up right now together. Anybody have any questions about the UI, what we're going to try to do? Okay, cool. So first thing is I'm going to select all these artboards, and I'm going to hit Shift. And artboard is just a page, basically. And at the bottom, there's a place where you can mark them for export. So I'm going to use 2x. Doesn't really matter what you use. And export 4 layers.
2x just means like twice the size of the original artboard size that's in English or in Figma.
Yeah, it doesn't matter for these purposes if you're not really sure what that means. And we've got a couple PNGs. And we're going to go into InVision and make a new prototype. All right, we're going to click the pink plus button. And we're going to make this My Music Jams. I'm going to make iPhone prototype. Portrait means it's upright, not landscape. All right, and now all I have to do is drag in those images. So I'm just going to select all these, drag them right on in, and here are your pages in InVision. So I'm going to rearrange these a little bit, just clicking and dragging. The first screen we want to have is that. The next screen we want to have is this. Then there's going to be a message pop up, and then they're going to see the message. And remember, when we're doing this, we want to start at the very moment the person opens the app. So this first screen is going to be the thing that they see at the very beginning, and we want to take them all the way through to that moment where they actually have gotten the value out of that app, which is their friend sees their cool song. Okay. In here, this is view mode, and I can page through these screens already. I'm actually going to make this white so you can see better. But they don't do anything when I click them. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this song, and I'm going to choose the song page here and save it. And I'm going to highlight the share bit here and choose share method and save that. Then on the next page, I'm just going to highlight the back arrow and say send me back to whatever the last page was. And I'm going to save the share button, give it a link to the share method overlay. All right. And then on the share method overlay, I've got a message guy here. I'm going to highlight that. I'm going to send it to messages and save it. OK. Pretty basic. So if I click down here, it's not going to do anything. But it's telling me what I can click. I can just click a song. I'm playing the song. It doesn't do anything down here. But I can share that song right away. I get here, click messages, and see it right away. So you can tell it took us about 2 minutes. Like, it was really, really quick. This is not rocket science, crazy stuff. There are a lot of prototyping tools that can really do complicated things, and they're really awesome, actually, for getting those micro interactions down. But the goal here is just to figure out if this is a good workflow or not. There are a couple other cool things we can do. There's a thing called a fixed header here, so I'm going to drag this down, and the thing called a fixed footer. And you can see when I go here, now I can sort of scroll in here, because those are stuck to the top and bottom. It's kind of actually starting to feel like a real app. I can actually share this and get feedback on it from my coworkers and my collaborators, which in this case is going to be you guys. So would you pull out your phones and go to this link for me? Take a few minutes. Get yourself familiar with InVision if you haven't already. But I want you in a couple of seconds to just think about some feedback you have for me on this prototype. I know it's not perfect. Take some time to think about what you might want to improve. Especially think about things that you didn't notice up on the screen but really feel different once you see them in your hands. We'll check in about 4 minutes. Does anybody have any questions? Raise your hand if you have any problems getting to that link. All right. Okay, I'm ready. It's so hard getting feedback, but I think I can do it. I know there's some stuff wrong with this. What'd you guys find? Yeah?
The cancel button doesn't work for the last screen.
Doesn't even do anything. This guy?
The top right, the cancel button.
Didn't even do that. Now, that's definitely a problem with the prototype. There's definitely some things that happen like that. But at least we had it sort of in the app. I think there's some problems with the app, too. Any other thoughts, issues? Thank you. Man, first try. That never happens. Yeah? Oh, yeah. That's true. You know why I did that? Because I wanted to show what it would look like if you clicked share a message. And the quickest thing to do is just to share a message from Chrome. This is something I'm thinking of buying. And I just sent it to Jason, my coworker, and took a screenshot. The detail isn't there. Like, the Amazon link is wrong. I don't know if Jason is who I'd be sending this to. I just wanted to get the screen in there a little bit. I think the most important screens, though, are these three. This guy, this one, and this one. They're not, I mean, there's not much here, right? So it's okay if there's not a ton to criticize. Yeah?
When you click on the song, the music looks up is very different. It's not the Justin Bieber song.
Yep, that's true. In fact, the whole list of Justin Bieber songs here, every song is Justin Bieber song. So obviously it shows a lot of my taste in music. But what it really means is that I didn't even bother to put in artists. Like, it's just easier to just put a bunch in there because I figured you guys would know that there would be a lot of different songs instead of just one song. Does anybody find something that's not the content, but the layout, sort of the design, the arrangement of the pages? Yeah? Yeah. Yeah, that's perfect. Maybe we can somehow, what about this? What if we do this in the prototype? What if we build a separate screen here? I'm going to just hit Command D called playing. I'm going to yank the pause button out of here, go up here, delete this, add this. So we're going to have a playing state. So this is when the song is actually playing. You can see that it's moving all the way along here. And then this one will make it so that it's at 0, 0. So it hasn't even been played yet. Let's see if I can get it going. Yeah, should just delete it. So when we add this, when you click play, it'll move to the next screen. Does that sort of solve your problem? That was really quick. I don't think I would have been able to do that had I been worried about colors and type and spacing and stuff. Any other ideas? I think I saw a couple more hands. That's a really good one. Yeah?
The placement of the share button in the top right can be a little awkward to reach for.
Oh, man.
Go back to the messages and then it's down to the bottom left.
Yeah. Is it, how do you have anybody have like an iPhone 6 or 7? Raise your hand. Or an Android of about that size? If you can, 6 Plus, does anyone have a 6 Plus even? Can you, like, if just hold it comfortably in your hand, can you reach the top? I have an iPhone 5 and I can't even quite hit that corner. Yeah, the top left is like the worst. Like nothing up there you're going to be able to hit easily. The top right is bad, and then like anything bottom right is really good. So I think that's a really good point. In fact, that's a really good one. We're going to move those down. In fact, our hypothesis here is that like sharing is the super most important thing that the thing is going to have to do. So let's get that near your thumb. Awesome. Perfect suggestion. Yeah.
You might want the title of the song bigger than the artist, or at least bigger than like the timestamp.
Definitely. In fact, I think actually that all this text, it gets bigger on bigger phones, but for me, every piece of text here is just really hard to read. So I'm going to get in here and just bump up all the text sizes real quick. First, let's put them at 18 maybe. And then I'm going to give that one a 22. Get in here real quick. Would you say song title bigger? All right. So let's give this back to the 18. Oh. Pretty good. And I have to do these two. It's just going to take me a beat. I'm not used to Figma. Oh no. Well, auto what? That's a thing? What is that? You know what? You're going to have to show me that later, but for now, I think I'm just going to make these too small. I'll make cancel bigger. Cool. I'm not really sweating the alignment too much just because it's a prototype. All right, any other ideas? I think we're pretty good. Let's call it. So now I'm going to do the same thing I did before. Select all of these. Oh, I'm going to name this something new. Song playing. I'm going to name this song paused. Export. Open. I'm going to drag them in and see if it just works. It almost worked, but I changed the name of this so it doesn't recognize it. Just going to delete this guy. And move these up. All right, so that's pretty good. We deleted what those song links were, and I'm going to add them back. I'm just going to do them to all songs.
One really quick thing I want to say too is that Sam exported all these images and he uploaded them back in here. What happened was that the hotspot stayed the same. So it didn't like totally delete all the images that were there before, it just replaced it and still kept the hotspot, which is really nice in Vision. Because if you have a bunch of streams, it can get really hard to keep updating stuff like that.
Thank you, Kelsey. All right, so I'm just going to say that that's going to go back. Oh, that did not come through, but let's pretend that it did. Actually, I'm going to send this to the song list. All right, let's see what we got. We can scroll through here, pick any song, and go back. We can even click the song that's currently playing and see that it's currently playing and pause it and start it again. We can always go back to where we were. And no matter what song we're on, we can click share. It's a little bit closer to our thumb, except I haven't actually done it. And I'm going to take this to the other screen. So close. And there we are. I can get cancel, or I can share again, choose a message, and I'm back here. So we're actually going to wrap up a little bit early after we finish up some thoughts on this. But, I mean, it's pretty clear that you don't have to go through a lot of stuff to make an interactive prototype. Who here feels like they can handle this? I mean, this is going to be your homework to make one of these. Pretty good. Raise your hand now if you are, like, totally confused. It doesn't make any sense. Nobody. Not rocket science, right? The next class, most likely, we're going to talk about testing our apps. And you're going to see that without all our lecturing and talking and intros and homeworks and stuff, you can get from idea to interactive prototype user testing in about 10, 15 minutes if you're sketching quickly. So it really doesn't take a lot. I think I got some really good critiques from you guys. One of your critiques was that you don't like where the placement of the share button is because your thumb can't reach it. Thought that was really good. The reason why is so important. Nobody said, I don't like it, I think it's stupid, so thank you for that. It's not really a very constructive critique. I heard a couple of you guys talk about what the problem was and then talk about the solution. So hey, I think it's kind of hard to reach that upper corner. Maybe if you moved it lower, that would help. A less good way to give that critique would be, hey, I think you should move that button down. Or, hey, I think you should move that button down because it's hard to reach. Sometimes it helps to set up the problem. It might even be a better solution than one you thought of. And some of you said, like, I don't know if this is a big deal, but, like, this is something I saw. And some of you said, oh, this is a huge problem. Well, you could have said that. I think attaching, like, how important you think your critique is really helpful. If you know somebody in this class, if you're planning on working on the homework together, I'd really encourage you guys to give each other critiques and to follow these guidelines. In fact, you can do it really easily in InVision. Just go in here, click, this is cool, so cool, and save it. And that's something I'm going to get an email about. It's going to show up on my phone. I can even reply to it. I know. Send, and then I can actually mark it as resolved, which shows that it's not something I have to worry about anymore. And if I go back to the other ones here, and I go to my list of comments, you guys can see that this is only one of these comments, but these are a lot of my actual conversations back and forth between me and my coworker about ways we can maybe improve these in all its various stages of development. Ones that I've read and ones that are still things that we've resolved and some things that are still unresolved from this design. Yeah? That's a great question. The question is, who do we go to for critiques? At my company, Kelsey and I, along with our other designer, have our own private Slack channel where we send things in really rough versions, like because we know we're not going to be mean to each other and tear each other apart, and we know what stage of the design each other is in because we work together a lot. So we send really early critiques to each other often. We send critiques out to obviously like stakeholders, so the product manager, to make sure that things are actually following the requirements that we have. We send prototypes out to the engineers who are going to build it, obviously, and a lot of these comments are going to come from engineers with questions. Hopefully we can eliminate most of those by the time they get a chance to build it, but it really helps to get that feedback here from engineers. And the best critiques and the best comments obviously come from your users, the woman in the kitchen. And InVision makes it so that you can put together something, send it out to a farmer in our case, and get feedback on it really quickly. So, I mean, design tools have exploded in the past few years, year even. The ability for you to get these things in front of users is getting like really, really good. So those are good places to critique. We also really like InVision, even if we're sitting next to each other in a room, because it helps us think a little bit more about what we want to say before we say it, and we can have threaded conversations asynchronously with each other. Any other thoughts or questions on that? Okay, there's a homework this week. It's make an interactive prototype. Let's make that a little bigger. Remember your homework from this week was find places to study. You can either use that prompt and build an interactive prototype that helps people find places to study, or if you want to work on your own project, you're always welcome to do that. Just replace the content with whatever you want. The format, 3 minimum screens, so you can't just build like 2 screens that bounce back and forth between each other. Use Figma or Sketch to make wireframes. No high fidelity color is necessary. Use InVision to make the interactive prototype. You just have to send us that public link in Canvas. It's due next Monday. Here's how to find the public link. If you go to the prototype, it'll say share in the upper right, like that. And that's what you click to get that link. Hopefully it'll work. Let us know if you have any other questions.
Can you reiterate the exact task for the assignment?
The exact task for the assignment, I kind of skipped over that, didn't I? We want you to show places to study on campus, just like last time. We want you to show how many people are at each place, just like last time. But most importantly, and show if the place is full, we want to let you share a place to study with one of your friends who you're going to go study with. Kind of like we did for music, right? We're sharing a song. In this case, you're sharing a place to study. But you can't do what I did. You can't just use the iOS pop-up. Think a little bit about how that sharing experience might work for that person. Like, who might they want to share that with? How can we know? Can we make it easier to share with them? Make it usable? Make it delightful. Like, show me something besides just boring black and white text on a screen. See if we can make this something that somebody would actually want to do and feel good about doing. Other questions? Yeah. Didn't I do that? You don't have to do that content. You can choose your own if you didn't hear that before. Okay, we're going to be around to help you if you had any trouble with Figma or Sketch on the wireframing stuff. We're also here to walk you through any InVision stuff if you have any questions. Otherwise, have a good week, guys. No, there's no jam this week. Next Tuesday.